Okay, my name is Anonymous. Um, no, it's Cher Isbell. Well, I want to work on this conspiracy theory stuff and put it into something that's personal and maybe even humorous if I could. What don't I believe? I, I believe in 90% of what is classified as a conspiracy theory. But the difference I feel like with myself is that since I've spent about a dozen years on this, I probably spent the first 6 years going down rabbit holes, driving myself so crazy that I literally shaved my head out of angst. And I thought the world was just this horrible, dark place. And then I realized that part of the problem was that I kind of lost my Christian worldview with it. I lost my hope and my larger picture. And I was looking at people that tended to be fairly sensational. So then what I tried to do was cull the people, the researchers down that I appreciated. And I have 6 now out of maybe 60 that I've looked at. And I'm not saying that the ones that I think are sus now are all bad, but they're such a mixed bag that I just look for people that give me documented research.
Well, I think most people look at conspiracy theory and they think when you say conspiracy theory, you have a negative connotation. For that, that's the first thing that should make you stop and think. Okay. And now, conspiracy theories can be a million different things. I mean, right now, there's actually an interesting conspiracy theory about the Kansas City Chiefs that the NFL is helping them to rig games. And when you look at some of that, it's kind of interesting. But there's a hard problem with connecting conspiracy theories. And so when I hear that point, we first have to say, what are we talking about? Are we talking about something in the future? Are we talking about something in the past? And can we find the connections? And so what most people don't know is conspiracy theory comes directly from the 1968 timeframe after JFK was killed in what was it, November 22nd of 63. And the Warren Commission brings on several people, including Gerald Ford. At the time, he was just a congressman. And it has Alan Dulles, who literally hated JFK, was fired by JFK, and curated all of the details. And when you look at the details of that particular event, they have this thing called the magic bullet theory. And it's a pristine bullet that shows up on the side of JFK's gurney. But it supposedly makes 14 different moves all in space that you could never come up with. And when all the experts started to look at this and say, this document, this Warren Commission document is so fraudulent. The it only came out around 1976 when the Church Commission was investigating this conspiracy theory because they were talking about, wait a second, there's, JFK had to have died with more than one shooter. And it all rides upon, those 3 bullet points that hit. And they had said, it's more than likely than not a conspiracy theory. But where they got that from, the CIA had to admit that they had pushed out that conversation through what's called Operation Mockingbird, which is a direct statement that they wanted to, they put out, and they had assets throughout the media and throughout Hollywood who presented that particular conversation.
And I would argue that most people, I don't think, decide to believe. I think for most people, there's probably not a moment where they're like, I'm not a believer in a conspiracy theory, and I hear it and I'm like, okay, I'm going to believe in that. I think it's a gradual, like incremental kind of process. They hear little bits and pieces and they accept a little more, accept a little more, accept a little more. And then one day they find themselves immersed in conspiracy theory. In in terms of like personality, I think there is a personality trait that's referred to as like fundamentalism or of authoritarianism. And this, it's not a reference to like religious fundamentalism, but those people have those traits of more fundamentalism or more authoritarianism. I don't think they're more likely to believe in conspiracy theories, but they're more likely to rigidly hold on to them once they have believed in one.
There's this amazing thing called the echo chamber effect, where if you get enough people around you, and it doesn't have to be that many people, there actually have been two-person cults, a lot of them actually, but if you get at least one other person reinforcing what you believe and constantly telling you day in and day out that you're right and everybody else is wrong, it's easy to start to believe that. And amazingly, we have this wonderful technology now today called social media, which is actually designed to create these echo chamber bubbles. People are only shown in their feed what they already respond positively to, which means they only ever get told things that they want to already believe. So we've got now these digital echo chambers where people can believe what they want and never ever have to come across any contrary evidence, or if they do, it's from people that they're going to already dislike, and they know people are already going to dislike them, and so it's going to, again, drive them back into their bubble.
I qualified for the 100th running of the Boston Marathon, so I was really interested in that. So, and I had just talked to a guy named Boston Billy who won most of the marathons in Boston. I got my running stuff signed by him. I wasn't going to run that year, but I was all psyched up because I did the half and I saw him at that run. And then they had the Boston bombing, and I was like, hell, this is, can't even go to a marathon without maybe getting your legs blown off. And so I was like really upset, and I noticed that people around me weren't that upset, and I was like, is this the US of A? I mean, how come we're not upset? And now I don't think that anybody literally got hurt there. And so then that was like, and then I looked into Sandy Hook. I don't think anybody died there. I've got a book on that. And my husband's totally not into this, and he was like really worried about me. And we do fine now. I mean, like, for instance, he's a doctor, right? And I'm not really into like his brand of pharmaceutical medicine. So I can talk to people and get along. I get along great with my husband, but I don't go to the doctor. I wouldn't go to a hospital, and I'm not into that kind of stuff.
I think the thing that doesn't work, if someone like says this, this is my conspiratorial thinking, and you come up to them and say that's wrong, like they're just going to put up a wall. They're going to resist it, and their resistance is only going to make their belief stronger. In the same way, again, if you think about the kids having a Bible study, it's the psychological process is very similar to conspiratorial thinking. If other kids in their high school make fun of the Bible study group and you guys are so dumb, they're just going to put up a wall and say, no, our faith is the most real thing. It's the most important thing. They're going to grow in that. So like trying to resist that is not helpful.
The way that I read my Bible is that there's a spiritual warfare with the real Jesus Christ and his true apostles and his heavenly hosts and Lucifer's kingdom. And he has all kinds of people that masquerade as angels of light. And so they're actually Luciferian. And they are the people that have the greatest wealth and power and live for money. Jesus said, you either live for money or you live for me. So you usually follow the money, and the wealthiest people are usually the most corrupt. So at the top of the whole level, it's possible that it's the current king of England. Maybe he's closest to Lucifer. I don't know. And then what I consider, they're called actually like Illuminati bloodline things that may have. They're basically Luciferian families. The Rothschilds are a really evil banking dynasty family that basically took over through financing wars. They operate like cabals. So if you watch The Godfather, it's a little bit like that. It's like mafia.
So I know people who have strange beliefs or believe in conspiratorial thinking, and some of them I consider friends. Some of them I've had as friends for a long time. And sometimes we can laugh about it and, joke and be like, hey, you're a little bit nutty. Well, you're a little bit nutty too. And sometimes people get very hostile about it. And I've had that happen too, where I can no longer call somebody a friend because they've blocked me, or because they've decided that I'm too far gone down the path of not being on their path. And it's sad when that happens, but also I think the majority of people are reachable. I think the majority of people just want to be friendly, have fun, be neighborly, and you can talk to them at some level. There's usually certain boundaries set at like family dinners sometimes where there's certain topics that you just don't talk about. Or maybe you can broach those topics more gently one-on-one, but you don't want to out somebody in public. And so there's a time and place to have these conversations, and there's a time and place to just put aside your differences and, watch sports together.
One sister won't talk to me. And another sister totally believes in my stuff. She's actually going to be there in Boise working the table. I'm bringing some of my books and just some of my videos for people if they want to have it. But yeah, and especially as, our area calls them truthers. That's kind of what we utilize that statement, whatever. It's very lonely. I'll tell you, because, people don't approach you exactly because they don't know how to approach you. They don't know how to have that kind of level of conversation. So it can be very lonely. It is a burden that most people don't realize. I mean, if I had looked backward, 2019 and said, this is what my life was going to be like in 2024, I don't know if I would have chosen it. I really don't. And so that's the burden that I have in there that, people go, keep going, keep sharing this information, and if God says stop, I'll stop. I'll stop tomorrow, but it doesn't stop.
I've lost a lot of sleep. I lost my voice once yelling, just screaming. I lost some of my hair when I shaved my head, like I said. But I didn't lose my mind. I actually got a lot of clarity. I went through it. I went through that tunnel, and on the other side, I feel pretty good. I learned how to breathe. And I think I'm influencing people because I believe that if you have some knowledge, that it can be power, and some foreknowledge and some warning, and like it put my life in perspective. Like I'm gardening. I'm doing a lot of, and I've done some prepping, and I'm just trying to warn people against taking injections they might not need to take that might not be good for them, and to to live every day and to just be wary. So I feel like that's a good thing.
You know, conspiracy thinking is, from a distance, it can look very obviously misguided. But I think, as you know, I think probably almost all of us have taken one step or two steps along the pathway to conspiracy thinking. And somewhere in there, we're like, oh no, that now it doesn't make sense anymore. But if you're surrounded by people who say, take step one, step two, step three, and yeah, it does make sense, it does make sense, it does make sense, you're going to take step four, step five. Nobody jumps in with both feet. They slide in, and they're supported by a community. And that makes it very, very powerful. So I guess in a sense, like, I don't blame individual believers of conspiracy thinking. They've sort of corporately slid in together. And so, I mean, that makes it hard to slide back out.
I would say, well, I respect your right to think whatever you want and have an opinion, just like I do. And it's like an opinion is like a rectum. Everybody has one. It's just how good it is, what it's based on. And everybody's opinion is going to be based on their overall worldview. And a lot of people are just not ready to be red-pilled. You know, that's what they call it. The Matrix, I don't believe in all that, but they're not ready to see the darker side of things because maybe they can't. Maybe they have some psychological reasons why they can't handle it. They can't handle the truth. So why should I force them to look at it? Jesus never did that. He was like, if you want to, then God, you know, that's why I don't force my religion on anybody either. It's like, if you want to seek and knock and find, you can do it. I can show you my books if you want, but if you want to think I'm crazy, that's fine too.